Simply put, the Super Bowl is a cornerstone of American culture. It feels like nearly everyone tunes in, even if it's just for the commercials or because they were invited to a Super Bowl party. It doesn't matter. The point is, the Super Bowl puts asses in the seats, and that is undisputable. And it's why corporations sell out millions and millions of dollars for television ads, because it's one of the most watched sporting events in the world year after year. It is the one event that attracts viewers from all corners of society. Everyone watches the Super Bowl. But just because everyone watches it, it doesn't guarantee that it will be the best football game of the year. In fact, there are some years where the game itself was a complete snooze fest. Super Bowl 53, the most recent one between the New England Patriots and Los Angeles Rams, had just 16 total points. Or if you go further back to 1995, when Steve Young and the San Francisco 49ers destroyed the overmatched San Diego Chargers in Super Bowl 29, there were plenty of iterations of the big game that were helpless disappointments. While those years always stink for the die-hard football fans, the NFL still rakes it in on ad sales, merchandising, the event itself. Really, every revenue stream imaginable is a flood of profits, so it's no skin off the NFL's back. The product on the field is so-so. It's supposed to be about the spectacle, but amongst all of the subpar Super Bowls that fans have endured, there's one in particular that had a slew of controversy leading up to the game and was so horrific on the field that the NFL, which is usually Teflon-like in its shamelessness, sees it as a black eye on the history of the game. Here's a story of the Super Bowl that the NFL desperately wants you to erase from the history books. The year was 1993, and the Dallas Cowboys were coming off of two dominating playoff wins in the divisional round and the NFC Championship game. Now they were set to square off with the Buffalo Bills, who were following up two consecutive Super Bowl losses with a daring run back to the big game as an AFC wildcard team. NFL fans were eager to see how the young but insanely talented Dallas Cowboys would fare against a team of seasoned vets from Buffalo in Super Bowl 27. Unfortunately for pretty much everyone involved except the Cowboys and their fans, this game ended up being a comedy of errors, and Dallas absolutely dominated the Bills. But that's not the full story here. It wasn't just the play on the field that made the NFL all but erase this game from the archives. The controversy started to swirl before the game even started, when the NFL was trying to finalize where the game would be played. Super Bowl 27 was originally set to be played at Sun Devil Stadium in Arizona, where the then Phoenix Cardinals played. The decision was made back in 1990 at the NFL's annual meeting in Orlando, Florida. Sun Devil Stadium had been renovated and expanded during the preceding year, and its investors, as well as the Arizonan politicians, were eager to earn the opportunity to host the big game. The group voted and Arizona was awarded the privilege of hosting. But there was one big contingency that related back to a bill that President Ronald Reagan passed back in 1983, officially making Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday a national holiday. For whatever god-awful reason, the state legislator in Arizona at the time was against the idea of an MLK holiday and voted against it, appalling Bruce Babbitt, Arizona's governor, who subsequently issued an executive order that made the holiday official. And that was how it remained in Arizona, at least for a few years, until Babbitt lost the office to a Republican, Evan Meacham, who rescinded the executive order, stating that Babbitt did not have the authority to carry out an order like that. In reality, Meacham was just a bad guy who made a number of off-color comments about civil rights during his career disparaging minorities. It was never about state rights or anything like that. Fortunately, the NFL actually stepped up and threatened to pull the Super Bowl from Arizona and Sun Devil Stadium if the state did not approve the decision to make MLK Day an officially recognized holiday. And after the state failed to do so, the NFL made good on its threat and moved the game to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. While the NFL actually came out looking good in this controversy, the whole situation was just ugly and drew a lot of negative publicity. The decision to move the game to the Rose Bowl also created a perfect storm that would impact the legacy of Super Bowl 27 in a way that no one at the time could have ever imagined. Are there any infamous NFL players who spent the bulk of their career playing for the Buffalo Bills who also had their fair share of time chopping it up in Pasadena? Maybe a USC grad. Anyone come to mind? How about a disgraced running back whose nickname was a delightfully fruity drink? Yup, O.J. Simpson, the former USC standout, who went on to have the best years of his career in Buffalo and, at the time, was a widely beloved public figure, got brought into the mix because of his ties to the new location of Super Bowl 27 and the franchise playing in it. He was a big part of the marketing campaign heading into the game, and the NFL went as far as having Simpson actually do the official coin toss At the beginning of the game, before heading up to the booth to announce the game with Dick Enberg, Bob Trumpy, and Todd Christensen, this wasn't really the NFL's fault either. How could anyone know that less than a year and a half from then, Simpson would begin one of the most notorious falls from grace of all time? But still, having OJ so involved in the production is undeniably another strike against Super Bowl 27. Okay, so the game had some negative premonitions heading into it with the whole Martin Luther King Day controversy, and then it was kicked off by O.J. Simpson, which attached Simpson's own particular brand of awful to the legacy of the game. Surely there were some positives in here, right? Maybe a halftime show? Yeah. Oh boy, there's another controversial figure from American history, Michael Jackson. While the details surrounding exactly what went on with Jackson are still somewhat shrouded in mystery, he clearly has his own issues with the law. What are the freaking odds? The decision makers of the NFL probably thought they were hitting an absolute home run with these choices. Simpson and Jackson were two of the biggest stars in the world at the time, and now, well, the NFL would probably prefer to just sweep this whole game under the rug and pretend that it never happened. It wasn't just all the troubling omens around the game that made it stand out as a truly awful moment in NFL and Super Bowl history. The play on the field was absolutely horrible in its own right. The Bills, one of the NFL's most sympathetic franchises, were entering the ring for the third straight year following two brutal losses to the New York Giants and the Washington Redskins. On the other side of the matchup was America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, who, because of their brash, outspoken team and their insufferable owner and de facto general manager Jerry Jones, were about as reviled as the Bills were sympathetic. It was an easy decision for any unattached viewers to make. Between not wanting to see the good people of Buffalo suffer yet another heartbreak and not wanting to see Jerry Jones raising the Lombardi Trophy again, ironically, everyone in America that wasn't a fan of America's team was rooting for the 6.5-point underdog Bills. Despite how the game is remembered, Buffalo actually got off to a good start in Super Bowl 27. They forced Dallas into a 3-and-out on their opening possession and blocked the ensuing punt out of bounds at the Dallas 16-yard line. Just 4 plays later, the Bills' standout running back Thurman Thomas punched in a 2-yard touchdown run, giving Buffalo an early 7-0 lead. Needless to say, the fans were pumped. The subsequent Dallas possession was equally futile. They made it up to their own 40-yard line before a penalty and 3 incompletions forced them to punt again. The Bills got the ball back and started marching down the midfield with the help of 2 more careless Dallas penalties. But then it all started to change. Dallas's pass rush got to Bills quarterback Jim Kelly quick and forced an errant pass downfield, which was intercepted and converted into a Dallas Cowboys touchdown just 6 plays later, and thus began Buffalo's descent into one of the worst Super Bowl drubbings of all time. Dallas kicked back off to Buffalo with the game tied 7-7. The Bills, however, continued to shoot themselves in the foot, committing an illegal block on the return, forcing them to start the drive from their own 10-yard line. Then on the first play off the drive, Kelly dropped back and was strip-sacked by Dallas defensive end Charles Haley. The fumble was recovered by defensive tackle Jimmy Jones, who snagged the ball out of the air at the 2-yard line and fell into the end zone. And in a truly brutal fashion, Buffalo lost its only lead of the game. I mean, it just all happened so quickly. 1 second they're blocking punts and punishing the Cowboys for their lack of discipline, and the next second they're surrendering 2 touchdowns in a span of just 15 seconds, which, by the way, set the record for the shortest time between touchdowns in Super Bowl history. A record that you probably have never heard of because the NFL hates referring back to this cursed game. Anyways, just 1 quarter through the game, the final outcome was far from being decided. Things were even starting to look up for the Buffalo Bills, as Jim Kelly headed into an impressive drive, including a 40-yard completion to Andre Reed, leading the offense down to the Cowboys' 4-yard line. The Bills opted to run the ball 3 straight times before going forward on 4th down, only to have Kelly get intercepted in the end zone. That was turnover number 3 for those of you counting at home. Still, it was a 1-score game, and the Bills had plenty of firepower on the offensive side of the ball. That was until their following drive when disaster struck. Dallas linebacker Ken Norton Jr. hit Kelly, catching him right on the same knee that he had sprained badly during the season, knocking him out of the game. Enter Bills quarterbacking legend Frank Reich, who actually started off hot, getting down to the Dallas 4-yard line again. This time the Bills tucked their collective tail between their legs and settled for a field goal, cutting the deficit to 14-10, with 3 minutes 24 seconds left in the half, which, considering the fact that they turned the ball over 3 times and lost their starting quarterback, is not too shabby. Dallas came storming down the field on their following possession, scoring in just 5 plays to increase their lead to 11 points. Now that the half was inside the 2-minute warning, everyone expected the Bills to take it to the locker room with a score of 21-10, but within that time span, they would turn the ball over 2 more times, and Dallas would punch in another touchdown, making it a 28-10 game at the half and decimating Buffalo's spirit. From halftime on, the score would never be closer than 17 points, and the wheels pretty much came off for the Bills. They would go on to lose the game by a final score of 52-17 and finish with 9 turnovers, capping off their third of 4 straight Super Bowl losses. All in all, this one stunk. Between the characters involved, the context surrounding the stadium selection, and the actual game itself, this is definitely one Super Bowl that the NFL wants you to forget ever existed.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you will, look right here.
If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that by clicking the subscribe button down below. If you like the video, then like the video. We'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, don't forget to tune into the TPS every single day for more cool videos. We'll see you next time.